Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Hole in the Wall. I'm Nemi, and we are joined here today, as always, by the Bluegrass Goblin.
Hello, everyone.
Today, we got a few good stories to talk about. One being the new secret layers that have been announced, and our thoughts on those. A couple of things regarding the Spider-Man set, with the newest chase card being the Soul Stone. EA is selling out, maybe? Question mark. And then there's a couple more stories that might pique your interest. So let's just get on into it. First things first here, we're going to talk about the new secret layers. A couple of the big ones we have the Secret Scare Super Drop and the PlayStation All Star Super Drop. We're going to talk about the Scare Super Drop first. Galvin, you want to go a little into this?
Yeah, I think this is the one I've paid more attention to out of the two that are coming up in October. Um, I think our main focus here today is going to be kind of comparing some of the quality between these layers and the PlayStation layers, both in like card choice and quality and kind of financial value as well. Is that fair to say, Nemi?
Yeah, I agree. You can definitely. It's so weird between this one being the Secret Scare versus the PlayStation, because the PlayStation one is obviously going a lot more over IP, and the Secret Scare is a lot more reprint value. So it's interesting to see how WotC is valuing mechanically unique versus reprints. And not to say there's some really interesting IPs for the Super Scare. I mean, everybody likes The Office, right? I mean, we're all dorks that lived in the early 2000s, so we know The Office. So, and for some reason, Jaws is $10 more than the other ones. So I guess you got to pay them licensing fees, but
Well, I think
it,
also it goes exactly on what you were just saying. The Jaws Commander is a mechanically unique card, and therefore, we gotta bump the price, pay a premium if we're gonna get all these reprints and something new.
yeah, we have to make it $10 more. It can't be the same price. That would just be silly, you
That
know?
would that would just be silly.
It's not like other mechanically unique secret layers were 29.99, but we don't make the prices. We just buy it up like the good little consumers that we are.
Yeah.
But for me, it's so interesting to see the PlayStation ones, and we won't go card by card. I mean, they've already been released, so you can see them yourselves. But we'll make a couple of the big ones on the screen. But if you can see, like, take for instance, The Last of Us One Secret Layer. So you have a couple interesting cards with Cabal Ritual and Haunted One, but it just comes with tokens, 1/1 tokens. And I mean, granted, they're for the archetype and they're for the commanders that you're playing, because I've never seen a Cordyceps infected before. But even still, like $40 just to get four cards and some tokens just seems like a big ask, at least from on my side. How do you feel
Yeah.
about that?
I was just about to ask, have the prices been confirmed on these? Because it looks like with Secret Scare, there's some variability. Like, uh, this Furby X the Odd Bodies is $29.99 or $40 for foil. And then if you go, like you were saying, this Iron Maiden secret layer is all reprints, but ostensibly they had to pay some kind of licensing to get these Iron Maiden trademarked images on the card. This one is only $29.99 and is 6 cards. Jaws is 5 cards and a token and is $40. And if you're saying the PlayStation layers are $40 too, this is 3 cards and a reprint and 2 tokens. Like
Yeah,
I'm not sure where they are getting their price structure, if that makes sense.
it's it's something to think about because I mean, a lot of people love the PlayStation IPs, and for rightly so. I mean, they're just solid games. The first Last of Us was probably peak in storytelling. And we have the whole Uncharted series as a whole with Nathan Drake as his own secret layer too. And some of the cards are decent on it. You have like Whip of Erebos and Passionate Archaeologist, if I can talk. So you have some there, but like you have the God of War secret layer where it's like specifically the one with Ragnarok with Kratos and Atreus, but you have a double-sided card, which is the same card. Teferi's Ageless Insight, which is just front and back the same thing. So it's so interesting, like the way they could have done these secret layers, and they just, I would say they dropped the ball, for being honest. I mean, now there are people that are just gonna buy them just because they want to have their favorite characters, and rightly so, but it just seems like they could have added more to it, given more of a reason to buy it versus just having specifically mechanically unique cards as commanders.
Yeah, I think this is totally the PlayStation drop. It is totally going all in on trying to get super fans of these titles to maybe branch into Magic and buy one of these products with one of their favorite characters on it. But as I look at this more and more, I really don't understand the logic behind these, right? So this one is two unique cards. I don't know if Haunted one is a reprint or not, off the top of my head. Cordyceps is a reprint, and then we get two tokens. Next one, two unique cards, two reprints, doesn't look like any tokens. Then we have Nathan Drake, which is a unique card, three reprints, four reprints, depending on if Passionate Archaeologist is a reprint or not. Kratos is unique, but all of the cards in the layer are reprints. And then, like you said, this is the same card. It's one piece of cardboard, but it's double sided. Maybe it's kind of a test run for them doing the double sided uh, Shocklands, kind of seeing what the appetite is for double sided cards that are the same card on both sides. But this is two unique cards, two reprints, and then Alloy, we have one unique card and four reprints. So I don't know what the logic behind the like organizing these to try and make them equal value if they're all going to have a uniform price. Now, maybe some of these are cheaper than others. Like maybe they'll do a Last of Us Part 1 and Part 2 bundle, and effectively that makes Part 2 cheaper. But I don't know if they've done anything like that before, where they kind of pair layers together.
At least what I have seen, the place, I'm sure they will do some type of super drop where you get like all of them. But from what I've seen, at least on graphics and stuff, it's just the individual ones. They're all 39.99 for non-foil and 49.99 for foils.
Yeah, so they're all a uniform price, but none of them are the same contents wise. And the reprints that are here, um, I I'm maybe Blightsteel is expensive. I don't think a Gonjo Castle or Blightsteel or anything here is nearly as expensive as this Demonic Tutor as far as like reprint value goes, right?
Well, looking at today's prices, Blightsteel is about a $30 card.
Okay,
So
so
that's got some good value. And looking at what was it, Passion Archaeologist, that's about a $25 card as well.
so there's
So
some good value.
yeah, so some of them have some really good hitters, but usually that's what we see with most secret layers is there'll be like one card that kind of makes up for the cost, and then the rest are kind of, I wouldn't say dog shit, but a lot less worth the value. But in
Yeah.
this, it just seems like nothing, even all of them combined, it doesn't come close. Besides them being mechanically unique, so it just comes down to what the market decides that value to be. So it's very, I wouldn't call it a gamble, but it's kind of holding your breath just to see if you pick the right one if you're looking for a value.
Yeah, I don't, and it's really hard to say like if you're looking at these kind of like through an investment lens cuz it it could be difficult for Hasbro to reprint these cards, or it might not be. We really don't know the inner workings of these licensing deals. So I don't think you can go all in on a character. I don't think you can go in all in on a layer, like trying to get a specific reprint. Because for every Blightsteel Colossus in one of these layers, we have a Meteor Golem. Like, this Thunderjaw art is sick. Like, why is this thing Meteor Golem?
Your guess is as good as mine. And the one that really sticks out to me is the original God of War Secret Lair, because those being all enchantments and sorceries where Kratos had multiple different kind of weapons seems like a big flavor miss to not have him have some kind of artifact. I mean,
Yeah.
Blades of Chaos,
Could
Blade of Olympus,
and it's
just
not like there aren't good red equipments you could get. You could reskin uh Blades of Olympus as Embercleave or the Reaver Cleaver, like, or what is the one from Kamigawa, Lizard Blades? Is that the name of it?
yes.
Yeah, yeah. So there's plenty of good red equipment you could have used for an IP that, if I remember the original games correctly, there were a lot of different weapons Kratos could use, right? Like, you didn't
Yeah.
just have the Blades of Olympus.
Yeah, and the funniest one is all is they this is clearly meant to be like a commander focused product, but we have Rite of Flame for some reason. Some something tells me you're not going to have more than one copy of the Blades of Chaos Bond in your graveyard. But hey, some strategies have been are crazy, so maybe, but it just seems interesting that they picked this over any other like equipment or artifact.
Yeah, it's almost like that's the stinker of the bunch. If every layer has to have a stinker, right? But I guess in my mind, these arts could be the exact same. You know, you don't have to commission new art. You just print a better card. I mean, you're selling direct to consumer to try and tamp down uh, secondary market values anyway. So why not? Like, Ghostly Flicker is a highly playable card, but it's not hard to get your hands on a copy.
And just for comparing and contrasting, we talked about the Jaws secret layer. That's the same cost as these PlayStation ones, 40 and 50, but I would I would argue that these are much better reprints than it would be for like say the Kratos one. There's Reckless Endeavor, Descent into Avernus, Sneak Attack, they're all anywhere between the $5 to $15 range on a good day. So they all just have a lot more playability than say than say Rite of Flame.
Yeah, they're more playable, or they're more financially valuable, like just on a card by card basis on average. And the ones that aren't, like Abrade is the quote unquote stinker in this one. And not only is the art really good on it, the new name is pretty funny. You're gonna need a bigger boat. But also, Abrade is highly playable, and you'll see it in almost every commander deck with red in it. Where, like you were saying, if we're just comparing it card to card to Rite of Flame has a home in Storm decks and in Eternal formats, but I think your average commander deck is going to be hard pressed to play Rite of Flame and be happy about it more often than they would be happy if that Rite of Flame was just in a braid, right?
So it's very interesting to me the choices that they picked for some of these and the quote unquote art value that they're expecting people to just pay for it. And I mean the secondary market is always a crapshoot. It's crazy. So we might see these cards go up, or probably will because it's a limited product. But it's just kind of weird their choices versus some with others compared to others.
Yeah, you touched on art, and I think even Secret Scare wins there. Like, look at Dreaming Darkly. Like, it's hard to say what does and doesn't look like a magic card these days, but these are the art on this is unlike anything I've seen. Like Rune looks so cheeky and mischievous for a Bant card. You know, Glen Elendra looks nothing like a fairy, if you ask me. You go in these Iron Maiden arts, while they're just kind of album arts straight lifted, you know, these are iconic arts if you're into heavy metal. Trick or Treat looks really good. These are like highly stylized, like Halloween themed reprints. And then everyone's talked about the Furby art. Even if you don't like Furby, just how whimsical and colorful and how much care you can see was put into this first layer. I'm not going to say the names. And then you kind of see the disturbing side of Furby with cards like Tormenting Voice and this Umbrous Fear manifest. So it's hard for me to like really put up one of these PlayStation layers just on an art level up against anything really in Secret Scare and have the PlayStation layer come out on top.
Yeah, it's definitely something that as a consumer you'd have to really step back, and especially with the PlayStation ones, and say, am I going to be able to play this card like in a deck or as a commander? Because it's not saying it's a big ask, but it's saying it's hard to judge unanimously, I guess would be the best way to say it. So if it's something that you would be interested in, then it's definitely worth picking up. But it's not something that I would like hedge your bets on saying this is going to be a money maker if you're looking in the investment side of things.
Yeah, I think now more than ever before, it's hard to invest in Secret Layer and expect to make even a 30 or 40% return on what you get, or not return, but like say you buy it for 60 and sell it for 70. You know, that's not the best
Profit.
day at the office if you're a reseller, you know, but you still make some money there. But how many times have we gone to conventions and booths are just loaded down with layers?
Yeah, we see it all the time, especially the ones that just don't sell. And and being just a regular consumer, especially if the cards aren't to snuff, they will sit around. So it case in point, the Spider-Man secret layers, some of those are still up available for purchase because they're just cards that people just don't want or they already have multiple copies of. So it definitely comes down to your preference, and I would say get what you want to play, and if you think the art's cool, then hang on, buy it and hang on to it.
So, out of everything they are coming out with, what are you interested in buying and hanging on to, if anything?
Well, I'm a big fan of the Jaws secret layer. I know we've talked it up a little bit, but it's just the red cards themselves I don't have. So I don't have a Descent into Avernus. I don't have a Sneak Attack or a Reckless Endeavor. And I love the art for the Jaws itself. I don't know if I'll make it a commander. I mean, I know you were talking about it, and I don't want to step on toes, but
Hey,
just the just the cards themselves are really that really speak to me. And as far as the PlayStation side, I think The Last of Us 1, the Joel and Ellie as dual commanders. I don't have any dual commanders myself, so I think them working together make a really cool strategy for a Jund deck. What about
really?
yourself?
Ellie and Joel over father and son? I did not expect that from you.
Yeah, well, it just seems a lot. It seems more fun to me, and I already have a Jund deck I can take apart and put these guys in the command zone and be fine with it.
All right. Well, that sounds fun, man. I'm excited to see how that plays out because I've played against your Jund list that you have now, but I'm interested to see what Joel and Ellie kind of do to change that gameplay pattern. Excuse me.
Tokens, baby. We like tokens. Can't get enough of them. And what about yourself, Goblin? What are you looking forward to, or if anything?
Well, we talked about Jaws already. I talked about this on the last episode. I've already got a list in my head for this. I'm just waiting for the 13th as far as getting a hold of one of these. And then the other one I'm looking at, the other two I should say I'm looking at are Dreaming Darkly. I think the art on this is all of these cards is really unique and interesting to me. And then Trick or Treat. This one I like the art, but I think I'd be getting it more for actually some of the inclusions here. Like I don't have a copy of Voja. I don't have a copy of Wilhelt. I already have a Veto, but I really like this art of Veto. So this is another one I'm thinking about. This is probably the first one to get cut if I actually do end up ordering stuff and pull the trigger on any of this.
Yeah, costs money. Pretty expensive, especially the Jaws one. But like I said, we're good little consumers. We'll buy it up regardless.
Oh, yeah. I mean, to a point, right? Like, I'm sure there are people that'll buy this entire drop and be really happy about it. And there was a time in my life where there were drops that came out and I was like, I want everything. But I think now there's just so much product coming out, and especially people like us that try and keep up, even if we don't play as much as we'd like to, try and keep up at least with more than one card game. It's getting harder and harder to buy these tertiary products like Secret Lairs and Commander decks and stuff.
Yeah. Harkens back to pick what you want, and you have to be choosy with your dollars these days. I mean, nobody has the hundreds and hundreds to buy everything, and even if you do, what are you doing? Like,
Yeah, and you and I kind of have a unique way that we manage our collection as far as like card games and stuff though go, excuse me. And maybe if people are interested in that, maybe we might spend an episode elaborating on that one day. But there are ways to make your card gaming experience cheaper and more enjoyable. It just takes honestly a good amount of work.
yeah, I would agree, and with us being relative getting up there, relatively older in age, not as old as some, not as young as others, we're in a unique middle spot of being part the target demographic, part looking on the outside looking in. So we have that perspective that most people that watch these videos share. Talking about Spider-Man a little bit, the aftermath, or I would say, uh, the biggest chase card reaches Black Lotus prices. So this is honestly kind of crazy comparatively, considering all the pricing that's been out for Spider-Man since its launch only a couple weeks ago.
Yeah.
But here we have the Soul Stone, which is the showcase card for the set, selling for upwards of $33,000, or at least listed rather. Copies were selling at around 10 to $15,000 range, whereas the base copy of the Soul Stone, which is going for anywhere between 60 to 70 right now in the market. So it's interesting to see this card with just a rock on it selling for as much as a used car.
Yeah, we just talked about how a lot of consumers like us are pretty close to redlining as far as spending goes, and yet the market somewhere has an appetite for this incredibly expensive soulstone for $10,000 to $15,000 when a regular copy, which I'm sure you're aware, but I'm just gonna say it, is functionally the exact same as far as like playing the game goes,
Yeah,
is what 50 times cheaper, 15 times cheaper. That's bad math, but
a lot.
it's a lot.
And even the borderless version that came out of the collector's boxes is selling for a pretty good chunk of change right now too. And they're pretty hard to find and few and far between, but the listings are going anywhere between, I would say, 15 to 2200 right now, which in and of itself is insane considering the card is, again, very good, don't get me wrong, but I think it, for this, at least my, if I were to bet a nickel, I think it would be just because of the pull rates being so low and the textless one being in such a weird state of limbo where they didn't, it's not a serialized card, so we don't know how many are out in the world, but Wizards never explicitly said the pull rate. So just extremely low quantities, I think is the verbiage they use. So I guess that gets people speculatory hats on and say I can sell this for a stupid amount of what I want, and apparently some people out there are willing to spend it. Which, I mean, more power to them. But Christ,
Yeah. I think at that point you're looking at this as an investment vehicle, right? Like there's no way you're spending 15,000 on this and not expecting to make 20 or 25 on down the line. Magic has always had this kind of like investor element. I'd say for the last 20 years, maybe longer. But it's getting to a degree now where the prices are attracting people from outside the collectibles hobbies, and some real money could get thrown around on some of these newer chase cards, as opposed to everything investment wise being poured into vintage, which is traditionally how it's gone. I just can't get over the fact that Spider-Man had no serialization. And we talked about this on a previous episode, and I guess this was their answer to that. Um but with no known quantities, it's really hard to say if these people got a good deal, a bad deal, if they're gonna lose money, make money. It's just all gambling at this point.
you have to think of it as well with Spider-Man not being as hot of a product as most people were thinking it would be. You know, we've started to see collector boxes fall to a little bit over MSRP at about the $500 range. So that leads me to speculate too is how many are just sitting on a shelf and how many are going to be sitting on a shelf. Like we will never know that answer, and if people don't want the set except for your lottery ticket here, like there's going to be a lot that aren't opened.
Yeah, and I think eventually we'll get to a break point where there's a, if let's say prices shift another 20% and there's a $400 box on the market with a $17,000 card in it. Uh, I think that's going to cause some arbitrage issues, and a lot of those boxes sitting on shelves, excuse me, uh, shitting on shelves will start to get
No,
cracked.
no diapers, it'll get stinky.
Yeah, yeah. But it'll get to a point where a lot of those boxes start to get cracked. And I think what that will mean for the rest of the hobby is that Spider Man might be the most expensive it's ever going to be right now. And over time, we could see everything in the set except the Soul Stone just start to drop off as the population increases over time because no one wants it and people are opening it chasing the golden ticket Willy Wonka style.
Yeah, and who's to say what the next Marvel set's going to hold? I mean, we get Marvel event or Marvel superheroes in the middle of next year, so are we going to have the Mind Stone? Are we going to have two stones? Is it going to be only collector boosters again? It's just questions we don't know the answer to, and how they plan on making this long term. Like, will this go up? It depending on the other ones. Will there be a gauntlet that you can fit all the textless cards in? It's it's going to be so interesting to see how this shakes out, the more of these individual cards become leaked and released and priced.
Yeah, so imagine Marvel superheroes. That there are what, 6 Infinity Stones total, right?
Yep.
So let's say Marvel superheroes comes out in June, and there's 3, and they all get a textless treatment just like the Soul Stone. Does that tank the price of the Soul Stone? Does it make it go up? Like,
Is it? Are they even going to print it in the same quantities as
right,
the Soul
right,
Stone? Or is the Soul Stone going to get reprinted in the other Marvel sets?
right. It's it's so strange. And I think that maybe this could chase some of the turn and burn, for lack of a better term, scared money out of the hobby, where you drop 10,000 on a soul stone, Marvel Superheroes comes out 6 months later, and all of the stones in that set are 20,000, right? And then 8 months after that, they all get reprinted.
Yeah, it's and we talked about this in an earlier episode when we talked about The Hobbit. It's one of those things where WotC is going back to a world where they can reprint those mechanically unique cards like the One Ring. But we're still in that space where they haven't done it yet and they haven't revealed the stuff yet. So would they even do that in the first place?
It's all up in the air right now. I think next year is going to be very interesting for Magic the Gathering. I think a lot of fans are, for lack of a better term, waterboarded with product. They're pretty concerned about the amount of stuff coming out next year. And then, like we were talking about before, I think if you take a step back and just kind of commit to not buying everything, being selective with your money, and just observing how the market moves, I think next year is going to be really fascinating just from a market MTG finance perspective. Even if, what is it, 4 Universe Beyond, 3 Universe Beyond sets next year, even if that's kind of got you down, if you're really not into that kind of thing, I think you might have a fun time watching the market. Because I think a lot of these sets are going to kind of go the way of Spider-Man, considering the way people are talking about them online already.
Yeah, to me, I think it just depends on what the text on the cards are printed. Because if we're being like honest, like with the Spider-Man cards, there were some good pickups. There were one or two like pretty good hitters, but most of it was just kind of stinky, if we're being honest. So I think it just comes down to, are they able to make cards that people want to play with alongside having that collector value? Because if we can just looking at the Soul Stone specifically, showing seeing how bonkers that is selling for and being listed for, this is clearly like a collector set. Like it's nothing that really is shaking up any metas anywhere. So I think they need to find that middle ground where people want the cards to play with and people also want the cards to collect. And Marvel is a good place, a good vehicle to do that because we do have all those iconic characters and things that people want to see. I think they just need to do a little bit better with making cards people want to play with.
Yeah, I think Avatar might be too soon for them to turn the boat, but I think the March Nickelodeon collab, I mean, everyone's calling it Ninja Turtles. I think if it is Ninja Turtles and that is done well, and just like you said, finds that middle of the road, fun and playable, but also collectible and desirable from a financial standpoint, I think we'll have a really fun year of gameplay ahead of us. But I think if they move that needle too far in the financial direction, we're going to have a lot of problems having events firing across the country, and getting attendance to anything that other than Commander Night. And then I think if you move the needle too far towards gameplay, I think you're going to see a lot of stores end up being hurt. So it's a really fine line that Wizards has to walk, because they also have to make the original IP holders happy, and there's just so many moving parts that I think that hopefully the rest of the company of Hasbro can stabilize, and Wizards can kind of slow down their product cadence and kind of still do Universes Beyond, but maybe buy less licenses and tie themselves into fewer things per year. Because right now, as I understand it, um, Wizards is essentially propping up Hasbro entirely. Like, the rest of the company is not making money.
That's the way I've gathered it too. And I agree. I think they really need to invest in themselves and invest in the stuff that they actually do get their hands on as far as licensing goes. Because we've seen before they can make banger cards, especially if they have the resources to put into the cards. And being Universes Beyond or Within, they know how to make a card game. They've been doing it for decades. So just giving them the time and opportunity and resources to pick something and then just really hone in on it, they can make something that's they can find that middle ground. They've done it dozens of times before. Case in point, Final Fantasy.
Yeah.
That set blew blew everything out of the water this year, and it was collectible, and it was mechanically good. So they can do it. They just need to have the time for it. But now that Doomsaying is out of the way, moving on a little bit to some more gaming news. EA gets bought.
Yeah.
People are in the streets. Can you believe it?
Uh,
Let, let's let's go a little bit more into this. Go ahead, Goblin. Read us off.
all right. So, as we all heard about, or maybe not have heard about, last week, EA was purchased by the Saudi Arabian government, or what they call the PIF, the Public Investment Fund. Uh, Silver Lake and Jared Kushner and affiliates. Basically, these three large financial groups conglomerated to take EA private, which means taking it off the stock market. So they'll be able to keep their profits entirely in house without having to pay out dividends to investors. And they won't be beholden to like fiduciary responsibility or have like a board of directors that contains people outside of the company. So EA isn't going anywhere. They're still going to be making games in the United States and publishing them all over the world. But um, this kind of got me thinking and remembering some news stories from the past. And it turns out that Saudi Arabia has quietly been moving into the gaming space for some time. So, moving into the presentation here, on March 2016, it is reported that the Saudi PIF, or Public Investment Fund, purchased a 5% stake in Japanese gaming company Capcom. They make games like Resident Evil and Street Fighter. And also, the PIF acquired a 5% stake in Korean company Nexon. They make Maple Story and a lot of other smaller games. And these investments were acquired for about a billion US. Then in 2021 and 2022, the PIF purchased stakes in EA, Take Two Interactive, and Activision Blizzard. Excuse me. And in May, they also got a 5% stake of Nintendo for an undisclosed amount. And they also acquired an 8% stake in Embracer Group for about another billion. And Embracer Group is a ton of different smaller gaming publishers like Nimble Giant, Zen Studios, A Thinking Ape, Purple Lamp. There's just a ton of different studios in that Embracer Group. So in 2023, Savvy Games, which is a subsidiary of the PIF, purchased Scopely. Scopely makes a lot of popular mobile games like Monopoly Go, Star Trek Fleet Commander, and they spent about $4.9 billion here. And then March of this year, they were the PIF that is scooped up Niantic, who makes Pokemon Go. And in September of this year, the Saudi Arabian mega project Kidia purchased RTS, which is the company that organizes fighting game tournaments like Evo. The price here was undisclosed. And then moving into the main topic, like we were just saying, in October of 2025, the PIF, in collaboration with American investment firms Silver Lake and Jared Kushner and Affinity Partners, took EA private. Like we said before, the stocks are going to be off the market, keep a lot more profit in house, just really have more control over the company overall. So the purchase was for about 55 billion US, split among the three. I don't know who paid what exactly. And at the time, EA was trading at $210 a share. So a ton of money was poured in to buy this company. This is actually the second largest gaming financial purchase, I think, ever. The first being Microsoft's purchase of Activision Blizzard last year. So, what all does this mean for gamers? While it is unknown what the lasting impact of these purchases will be, I predict that little will be done to change the content of games and series that are already successful, as I believe the primary goal of these investments is to make money. However, a second benefit to the Saudi government could be part of their consideration for why they are purchasing so many different gaming companies. Nemi, had you heard about all of these different purchases that the PIF had made?
I was reading the article and it does mention a good chunk of those, but some of the earlier ones that does not mention, which I think it's interesting just as a standpoint to see how much they're just gobbling up of the gaming space because we both are big fans of Capcom. I'm a huge Resident Evil fan. I know you play Street Fighter on the regular, so it's it's interesting to see how they're inwoven into what that we're playing right now. And the article that you sent to me regarding this is also very interesting to me too, because they said about 36 billion of the total 52, 55
Mm-hmm.
billion was the 36 of it was used from their own funds, but the rest they are borrowing. So about a little over about $20 billion is just being financed.
Oh
So
my
that's
god.
yeah, so that raises a big question to me because I know EA does have the big money makers like FIFA. I mean, like it or not, it makes money, it just prints it.
Yeah.
So it's going to be interesting to see how those investors are going to try to make that money back and pay off the debt. Are we going to see more microtransactions and a lot more egregious practices? I know EA is already bad at it now. So is it going to go worse? Is it going to be more of the same? What does it look like 10, 20 years down the road when that debt's paid off? Are they going to keep making that money? Is it going to be more of this or is it going to be less? It's weird to think about from the consumer standpoint.
Yeah, it's hard to tell. I think ultimately they'll want to, but like you said, I don't know how much further EA can turn that screw before the head breaks, and they no longer are in the good graces of the communities of people that play their games. It Something else I wanted to touch on here is that a lot of the Saudi economy is tied to oil. So this investment in entertainment could be a way to try and like diversify their nation's investments overall. And something I can't help but think here, if Wizards is holding up Hasbro and these Saudis are throwing a ton of money around. Do you think if they made an offer to Hasbro for Wizards and just completely buy them out, I think Hasbro would take that offer if it was large enough, unfortunately.
Yeah, I mean, everything's for sale and has a price, right? So if the money is right, I would assume people they would at least consider it. Now, I guess it just comes down to the Saudis wanting it. I know Saudi Arabia is very big on entertainment. Like they want to be a a giant when it comes to all forms. I know they're really big wrestling fans over there. They really like their comedy shows. So it's interesting to see. They really invest in the things that they like. So if card games are a thing that they want to put their money into, then if some rich oil tycoon's son plays Magic, then who knows? Maybe.
Yeah, it could be a thing that happens. And you were touching on this perfectly, so I went ahead and moved to this slide. So the PIF's investment in entertainment products could be a way of diversifying the Saudi economy while also having the additional benefit of whitewashing the country's somewhat dirty reputation politically. Now, I don't know about you, Nemi, but I like to use this podcast as a way to get away from politics for the most part. So I don't really want to dive too deep on one side or the other about this. But what I will say while we're here is that if you want to boycott companies that are owned by Saudis, or if you want to decry comedians that go over there and perform, I think that's perfectly fine. I think that's totally within your right. I think that your wallet is almost, if not more powerful than your vote when it comes to like having your voice heard in the economy and in politics in general. So I'm gonna say that here's the information. We told you what they've invested in, how long they're doing it, for what reasons, and I think what you choose to do with the information is up to you. How do you feel, Nemi?
I think unintentionally we found our theme for today's episode.
What's
We
that?
have uh make smart choices in how you spend your money. Just don't go around just chilling out to whatever every big new thing that's out. Take some time, do a little research, see what you like, and like the goblin said, vote with your wallet. We got little gold coins in our purses, and we need to spend them wisely.
That's more about the history of the PIF's investment in gaming than the current EA buyout. I mean, there's a ton of information online about the buyout if you're more interested in diving into the details of that, excuse me. But I think for now, we're going to bring it down a bit and move on to our moment of zen.
I think it's time for a cool down period, a nice little refractory period from all this doom and gloom. And what better way to bring it on home than with Sonic the Hedgehog? What?
Sonic the Hedgehog coming to the Olympics. You sent me this article the other night, and I skimmed it a little bit, but you gotta fill me in on exactly what's going on here.
So Sega has struck a deal with the International Olympic Committee, where Sonic is going to be the mascot for the Olympics for the foreseeable future. They already started some marketing campaigns with the Five Rings, as I think is what they're calling it, where they have the major Sonic characters just scooting along with the colors of the Olympic rings. And I think the first time we're going to see this is the 2026 Winter Olympics. So coming to Italy, we're going to see Sonic and his friends gracing their presence with with the greatest sports athletes in the world. I think this it's really par for the course. I mean, if you think about it, it kind of makes sense because I know Sonic and Mario have been big. They've made a lot of Olympic themed games with both franchises, and it does very well. Selling a lot of it mostly on the Nintendo consoles. I think all of it is, but it sells really well, and it's nothing we've seen out of the ordinary. Because if you remember a few years back with the Japan Olympics,
Hmm.
we had Goku being the mascot for that year. So it's the Olympics' way of trying to bring more younger folks into wanting to watch these sports, and it's one of those things where the Olympics, I would say, is becoming more antiquated as the years go on. I mean, I know it was a bigger thing when we were younger, but I've honestly not really cared too much, but having something that just connects the world more is always a good thing, especially when it comes to friendly competition like the Olympics.
Yeah, I think Sonic was a great choice for this. Like you said, he's been at the Olympics before, and I'm just looking at some of these logos here. The Olympic Dream logo with Sonic, Tails, Shadow, Amy, and Knuckles all kind of representing one of the Olympic rings. That logo is sick. I think the Olympic Committee made a great choice here. And I don't know really who approached who, but it's just going to be nice seeing a little touch of our gaming culture kind of bleeding into the athletic culture. And you can see that from time to time. I know there are a few NFL players that play Magic, and a lot of MMA fighters talk about watching anime and stuff like that. But there is something you said a second ago that stood out to me, where you said this is the Olympics attempt to get younger people interested. So what better way to do it than with a 30-year-old video game character?
He's young and hip. He moves fast with the youngins. Everyone likes Sonic.
Yeah, he's still sucking on them chili dogs outside the Tasty Freeze.
He's not John Mellencamp, but he's close, I guess. But anyway, folks, that wraps up our stories for today and our little time together. Any thoughts before you want to send us home, Goblin?
No, other than I really appreciate everyone that hung out and listened with us today. We're still trying to totally find our footing and see what direction we want to take the podcast overall. And if you're enjoying it so far, just leave a comment, leave a like, let us know you saw it, and thank you so much.